The negotiation room was cold and sterile, just like it had been for the past 3 months. Commander Daniel Harper sat at the human table with his hands folded in front of him. He had stopped counting the days since they arrived at this station. The station floated in neutral space, far from any planet or sun. It was called Kepler 7, and it was supposed to be where peace was made. But Daniel was starting to think that peace was the last thing anyone here wanted. Across from him sat Ambassador Velthor of the Crithian Collective. The alien had 3 fingers on each hand and skin that looked like polished stone. His translator box hung from his neck, turning his clicks and hisses into words that humans could understand. Right now, those words were not kind. "Your species does not understand how things work here," Velthor said through his translator. "You are new to space. You are children. You think you can sit with us and make demands, but you have no right to do so." Daniel felt his jaw tighten. He glanced at Dr. Lisa Morrison, who sat beside him. Lisa had spent weeks preparing trade proposals that would help both humans and aliens. She had worked day and night on agricultural plans, medical exchanges, and technology sharing. Every single proposal had been rejected without serious discussion. "We are not making demands," Daniel said calmly. "We are offering cooperation." "There is a difference," Velthor waved his hand dismissively. "Cooperation requires that both sides have something of value to offer. What do humans have that we need? You have been in space for less than 100 years. We have been traveling the stars for thousands." Senator Julie Banks, the senior diplomat in the human group, leaned forward. She was older than Daniel and Lisa, with gray hair and sharp eyes. "We helped you fight off the pirates in the Outer Rim 3 months ago. Our ship saved your colony on Vex Prime. We have offered medical technology that can cure diseases your people have suffered from for generations. How is that not valuable?" Grand Arbiter Thalvin, the leader of the council sessions, spoke up from his high seat. His body was made of something that looked like living crystal, and light seemed to move through him when he talked. The human contribution to the pirate incident was appreciated, but it was minor. "You happened to be in the right place at the right time. Do not mistake luck for capability." Daniel felt something break inside him. It was not anger exactly. It was more like a door closing. He had been patient for 3 months. He had listened to insults disguised as advice. He had watched his team work themselves to exhaustion, trying to prove humanity's worth. And for what? To be told they were lucky children who should be grateful for being allowed in the room? He stood up slowly. The room went quiet. 14 different species were represented at this table, and all of them turned to look at him. "Dr. Morrison, please gather your materials," Daniel said. His voice was calm and steady. "We are leaving." Lisa looked up at him with surprise, but she saw something in his eyes and began collecting her data tablets without question. Senator Banks stood as well, her face showing no emotion. "Commander Harper, you cannot simply leave," Velthor said. "There are procedures. There are protocols that must be followed." Daniel looked at the alien ambassador. "You are right. There are protocols. You should have followed them. You invited us here to negotiate, but you have not negotiated. You have lectured. You have dismissed. You have insulted. We offered our hand in friendship, and you have slapped it away repeatedly. We are done." "This is unacceptable," Grand Arbiter Thalvin said, rising from his seat. "The Galactic Council does not tolerate such disrespect." "Disrespect?" Daniel almost laughed. "We have shown nothing but respect since we arrived. We have been patient. We have been polite. We have tried to understand your customs and your ways. And in return, we have been treated like beggars asking for scraps from your table. That ends now." Senator Banks addressed the room in a formal tone. "The human delegation officially withdraws from these negotiations effective immediately. We will send formal documentation through proper channels within 24 hours. Until then, consider our participation ended." "You need us more than we need you," Velthor said. But there was uncertainty in his voice now. "You will come back. Where else will you go?" Daniel paused at the door and looked back one last time. "We will go home. We will take care of our own people. We will trade with those who want to trade with us fairly, and we will defend those who treat us with respect. As for the rest of you, you can continue your council without us. I wish you luck." The 3 humans walked out of the negotiation chamber. The door sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. Daniel could hear raised voices behind the door, aliens arguing in a dozen different languages. He did not care anymore. They walked through the corridors of Kepler 7 station in silence. Other aliens stared at them as they passed. News traveled fast in a place like this. By now, everyone on the station probably knew that the humans had walked out. When they reached their quarters, Lisa finally spoke. Did we just make a huge mistake? Daniel sat down heavily. Maybe, but staying would have been a bigger one. They were never going to respect us, Lisa. We could have stayed for 3 more months or 3 more years and nothing would have changed. They see us as inferior and they were never going to see us any other way. So what happens now? Senator Banks asked. Now we go home. We tell Earth what happened here. And we let the Council see what it is like without us. Maybe they will realize what they lost. Maybe they will not. Either way, we will be fine. Humanity does not need their approval to survive. Daniel sent a message to Captain Hayes on the Earthship Roosevelt, which was docked at the station. Prepare for departure. We are coming home. The response came back immediately. Understood, Commander. It will be good to have you back. As Daniel packed his belongings, he thought about the past 3 months. All the work, all the effort, all the hope that they could build something good with these aliens. It hurt to let it go. But sometimes walking away was the only way to maintain dignity. Lisa stood by the window looking out at the stars. Do you think they will try to stop us? No, Daniel said. They are too proud for that. They think we will come crawling back in a few weeks. They think we need them. Let them think that. They will learn the truth soon enough. Senator Banks was already composing the official withdrawal statement on her tablet. I will make sure this is worded properly. No insults, no accusations, just a simple statement that we are withdrawing due to fundamental disagreements about the nature of the partnership. Perfect, Daniel said. Keep it professional. We are not angry. We are just done. 6 hours later, the Roosevelt detached from Kepler 7 station and turned toward human space. As the station grew smaller behind them, Daniel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They were going home. And whatever came next, they would face it on their own terms. 3 weeks had passed since the humans walked away from the negotiations. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. At first, the Galactic Council members laughed about it. They made jokes in their private chambers about the humans throwing a tantrum. They predicted that within days, Earth would send desperate messages begging to return. But those messages never came. Instead, something else started happening. The human trading ships that had been visiting dozens of worlds simply stopped coming. The merchant vessel Majestic Dawn, which made regular deliveries to Korath every 2 weeks, never showed up for its scheduled docking. The medical transport ships that brought human-made antibiotics to Vex Prime turned around halfway through their journey and went back to human space. Chief Minister Ralesh of Korath stood in his empty docking bay and stared at the space where the human ships used to land. His assistant stood beside him with a worried expression. How long until the Krithians can replace the human deliveries? Ralesh asked. They say it will take at least 6 months, maybe longer, and the cost will be 3 times higher than what we paid the humans. Ralesh felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. His planet's mining operations depended on human machinery. It was affordable, reliable, and easy to repair. The alternatives from other council species cost far more and broke down constantly. He had voted to support Ambassador Velthor during the negotiations. He had agreed that humans needed to be put in their place. Now his planet's economy was starting to collapse. On Vex Prime, the situation was even worse. The plague that had been killing thousands was finally under control thanks to human antibiotics. But now the medicine shipments had stopped. Dr. Kessman watched her supplies dwindle day by day. She sent urgent messages to the human medical companies, offering double the previous price. The responses were polite but firm. All human medical exports were being redirected to human colonies and allied worlds. Vex Prime was no longer on the list. What about the Council? Her assistant asked. Can they provide alternative medicine? I have requested it, Kessman said quietly. They say they will try, but their medicines are not as effective, and they cannot produce them in the quantities we need. The assistant looked at the rows of sick patients. How long before we run out? 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we ration carefully. The problems were not limited to trade and Edison. The border regions between human and council space had been relatively safe for months. Human patrol ships had been aggressive about hunting down pirates. They chased them into dangerous territories that council ships avoided. They responded quickly to distress calls. They did not hesitate to engage in combat when necessary. Now those patrol ships were gone. They had all withdrawn to human space, following new orders to protect only human interests and human allies. The pirates noticed the absence immediately. Captain Zethrin of the pirate clan Blood Moon studied the new patrol patterns on his ship's display. For months, his clan had been forced to operate in the shadows, always watching for the aggressive human warships. Now the borders were wide open. The humans are gone, his first mate said. The council ships are trying to cover the territory, but they are spread too thin. Zethrin smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then we hunt. Target the council merchant convoys. Avoid anything with human markings. We do not want to draw them back into this area. Within days, pirate attacks increased by 300%. Council merchant ships sent desperate distress calls. Some were answered by council peacekeeping forces, but many were not. The council fleet was designed for show and peacekeeping, not for the brutal efficiency that humans brought to combat. Admiral Kyle Peterson stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Washington and watched the tactical display. His ship was one of the most powerful in the human fleet, and right now it was patrolling the inner edge of human territory. "Sir, we are receiving distress calls from the Mexal trade corridor," his communications officer reported. "Multiple pirate attacks on council vessels." Kyle did not move. "Are any human ships or human citizens involved?" "No, sir. All council-flagged vessels with non-human crews. Log the transmission and continue our patrol route." The communications officer hesitated. "Sir, should we not assist? People are dying." Kyle turned to face the young officer. "Son, for 3 months our people sat at a negotiation table trying to build a partnership with the council. We offered our help, our resources, our friendship. We were told we were children playing at politics. We were told our contributions were minor and based on luck. Now they expect us to risk our lives protecting their ships. No, we protect our own. Everyone else made their choice." The officer nodded slowly and returned to his station. The distress calls continued to come in, but the Washington maintained its patrol route along the human border. Back on Earth, President Nathan Cole stood before the Global Assembly. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from every nation and every major colony. The mood was tense but determined. "Some people are calling our withdrawal from the Galactic Council negotiations a mistake," Cole said. "Some say we should have been more patient, more flexible, more willing to accept whatever terms they offered. I disagree. We offered our hand in friendship and it was rejected. We offered fair partnership and we were treated like beggars. No nation, no species should accept such treatment. We will continue to trade with individual worlds that wish to engage with us fairly. We will honor our existing agreements, but we will not beg for respect. We will not compromise our dignity for a seat at a table where we are not wanted." The applause that followed was overwhelming. It echoed through the chamber for several minutes. Humanity had made its choice and the people supported it. Meanwhile, individual alien worlds were starting to panic. The Dracon Confederacy had relied on human agricultural consultants to improve their crop yields. Without them, their harvest projections dropped by 30%. The Pelion Assembly's manufacturing sector depended on affordable human raw materials. Those shipments had stopped. The Frontier Worlds, a loose coalition of independent planets, had been receiving human medical support and educational assistance. All of it ended when the negotiations collapsed. Some worlds tried to reach out to Earth directly, bypassing the Galactic Council. They sent private messages offering better terms, higher payments, anything to bring the humans back. A few succeeded. Earth was willing to maintain relationships with those who had treated them fairly, but most found their messages ignored or politely declined. On the merchant vessel Horizon's Edge, Captain Gary Mitchell reviewed his contract offers with amazement. Before the withdrawal, his ship competed desperately for every job. Now he had 12 different worlds offering premium rates for basic supply runs. "I do not understand," his co-pilot said. "Why are they offering so much?" Gary laughed. "Because suddenly there are not enough human ships to meet demand. We were everywhere, doing jobs that nobody else wanted to do at prices nobody else could match. Now we are gone and they realize how much they depended on us. Supply and demand, my friend. Right now we are the supply and the demand is enormous." The co-pilot shook his head. "The council really messed up, didn't they?" "They did, and now they are paying the price, literally." Back at Kepler 7 station, Grand Arbiter Tholvin sat alone in his chambers reviewing reports. Every day brought worse news. Trade disruptions, security failures, worlds threatening to leave the council if solutions were not found. He had believed the humans would come crawling back within days. It had been 3 weeks and there was no sign they even cared. Ambassador Velthor entered without knocking. You need to call an emergency council session. This situation is getting out of control. Tholvin looked up tiredly. And say what? That we were wrong? That we underestimated them? Say whatever you need to say. But fix this. My own homeworld is suffering. The Crithian Collective cannot replace human trade goods fast enough. Our people are angry. They will come back, Tholvin said, but his voice lacked conviction. They must they? Velthor asked. From what I'm seeing, they are doing just fine without us. Can we say the same? The question hung in the air unanswered. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called exactly 4 weeks after the humans walked away. Every member was required to attend, and the chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. The mood was different from the last time they had all gathered. Before there had been confidence and pride. Now there was worry and finger-pointing. Grand Arbiter Tholvin stood at the center podium and looked at the assembled representatives. His crystalline body seemed dimmer than usual, as if the stress had affected even his natural glow. We are here to discuss the human situation, he began. Their withdrawal has caused complications that we did not anticipate. We must find solutions. Ambassador Velthor spoke first, his translator making his words sound defensive. The humans will return. They are simply posturing, trying to gain leverage. We must remain firm. If we show weakness now, they will think they can manipulate us whenever they wish. Remain firm. The voice came from Councillor Kesra of the Pylian Assembly. The insectoid representative stood on multiple legs, her antennae twitching with agitation. My world's manufacturing sector has collapsed. We depended on human raw materials. Now our factories sit idle and our workers have no jobs. How long should we remain firm while our economy dies? Senator Hulment of the Draken Confederacy rose to his full height. His reptilian features were twisted with anger. My people are facing food shortages. The human agricultural experts increased our crop yields by 40%. Without them, we will not have enough food to feed our population by next season. But please let us remain firm while my people starve. Find other experts, Velthor snapped. The galaxy is full of agricultural specialists. None who work for prices we can afford, Hulment shot back. And none with the human ability to adapt techniques to different environments. They studied our soil, our climate, our native plants. They created solutions specific to our world. No one else offers such service. The debate grew heated. Representatives shouted over each other in a dozen languages. The translator system struggled to keep up. Some blamed Velthor for his harsh treatment of the humans during negotiations. Others blamed Tholvin for not controlling the process better. A few still insisted that the humans were bluffing and would return soon. Finally, Councillor Trevnak stood. He was one of the oldest members of the council, a being who had witnessed centuries of galactic politics. When he rose, the chamber gradually fell silent out of respect for his age and experience. I have lived for 300 years, Trevnak said slowly. I have seen species rise to power and fall into obscurity. I have watched empires form and collapse, and I tell you all now we are making a grave mistake. What mistake? Velthor demanded. We treated the humans exactly as newcomer species should be treated. They must earn their place, not demand it. That is where you are wrong, Trevnak replied. The humans are not like other newcomer species. They did not come to us seeking approval or validation. They did not beg for membership. They offered partnership as equals, and we treated them as inferiors. That was our error. They have been in space for less than a century, another representative argued. How can they be equals? Trevnak looked at the speaker with something like pity. Because they do not need us. That is what you all fail to understand. Every other species that joined this council needed our trade networks, our protection, our legitimacy. The humans need no one of these things. They came to us offering cooperation because they believed it would benefit both sides. We convinced them otherwise. So what do you suggest? Tholvin asked quietly. We apologize, formally and publicly. We acknowledge our mistake. We invite them back to the negotiating table, this time as true equals with full rights and representation, and we hope that they are more gracious than we were. The chamber erupted again. Half the representatives shouted in agreement while the other half protested loudly. Velthor stood and pointed at Trevnak. This is madness. The Galactic Council has never apologized to a species that has been spacefaring for less than a century. If we do this, we set a precedent. Every newcomer species will expect the same treatment. Good, Trevnak said simply. Perhaps it is time we changed how we treat newcomers. Perhaps our pride has made us blind to valuable partnerships. I will not vote for this, Velthor declared. It is humiliating. It is necessary, countered Representative Mirtak of the Frontier Worlds. My coalition is already discussing leaving the Council entirely and forming bilateral agreements with humanity. We are not the only ones. If this Council cannot provide what we need, we will find it elsewhere. That statement sent a shock through the chamber. The idea of Council members leaving to partner directly with the humans was unthinkable. Yet here was a representative openly discussing it. Thalvin raised his hand for silence. We will vote on Councillor Trevenak's proposal. All in favor of sending a formal apology to humanity and inviting them back to negotiations with full membership rights. Indicate now. The vote was close. Many representatives hesitated, their pride warring with their practical needs. In the end, the measure passed with a narrow majority. Ambassador Velthor abstained from voting, his face showing clear disgust. Very well, Thalvin said. I will draft the apology myself. We will send it through official diplomatic channels within 2 days. After the session ended, Velthor stormed out of the chamber. Several other representatives who had voted against the measure followed him. In the corridors, they spoke in hushed, angry tones about the Council's weakness and the mistake they were making. But in another part of the station, a different conversation was happening. Councillor Trevnak sat with Representative Mirtak and Senator Holmint in a private room. Do you think they will accept the apology? Mirtak asked. I do not know, Trevnak admitted. If I were them, I would be suspicious. We treated them poorly for months and now suddenly we want them back. They would be foolish to trust us easily. Then what can we do? Holmint asked. We wait. We send our apology and we wait. And if they reject it, we accept that rejection as the consequence of our own actions. We cannot force them to return. We can only hope that they see value in giving us another chance. Meanwhile on Earth, Secretary of State Linda Hayes received a preliminary notification that an official message from the Galactic Council would be arriving soon. She read the notification twice and then forwarded it to President Cole with a single line of commentary. They blinked first. The actual apology arrived 2 days later, exactly as promised. It was lengthy, formal, and carefully worded. The Council acknowledged that the initial negotiations had been less than optimal and expressed sincere interest in renewed dialogue on equal terms with humanity. The message included specific proposals for full Council membership with voting rights and representation on key committees. Linda read it thoroughly, making notes in the margins. The apology never actually used the word sorry, which was interesting. It was clearly written by committee, with every phrase debated and softened. But beneath the diplomatic language, the message was clear. The Council needed humanity back and was willing to make concessions to achieve it. She called an emergency cabinet meeting. President Cole sat at the head of the table with his senior advisors around him. Linda projected the Council's message on the wall screen. They are scared, Defense Secretary Paul Graham observed. This message reeks of desperation poorly hidden behind diplomatic language. Should we respond immediately? Someone asked. No, President Cole said firmly. Let them wait. They made us wait for 3 months while they dismissed every proposal we made. They can wait a few weeks while we consider their offer. Some people will say we are being petty, Linda pointed out. Some people would be wrong, Cole replied. This is not about revenge. This is about establishing the right dynamic. If we jump at their first offer, we are back where we started. They will think they can treat us however they want and we will always come running back. We need them to understand that our participation is valuable and not guaranteed. Admiral Kyle Peterson, attending via secure video link from the Washington, nodded in agreement. Our intelligence shows that 4 Council member worlds are already in private talks with us about security partnerships outside of Council authority. The whole structure is more fragile than anyone realized. We have real leverage here. Then we use it, Cole said. We draft our own terms for returning. Full voting rights, representation on all major committees, veto power on any Council decisions that directly affect human interests, and a formal seat on the Security Directorate. They will never agree to all of that, someone argued. Then they will lose us permanently, Cole replied. And they will watch as individual Council worlds break away to form their own partnerships with us. Either way, humanity wins. But I would rather see the Council survive in a reformed state than collapse entirely. Galactic chaos would hurt everyone, including us. Over the next week, human diplomats worked on crafting the response. It was respectful but firm. It acknowledged the Council's message and expressed willingness to return to negotiations, but only under specific conditions. The terms were non-negotiable. Humanity would accept nothing less than full equality. The human response to the Galactic Council's apology took 12 days to arrive. For Grand Arbiter Thalvin, those 12 days felt like 12 years. Every day brought more bad news from Council worlds. Every day more representatives contacted him privately to express concern about the deteriorating situation. Every day he checked his communications terminal hoping to see a message from Earth. When the response finally came, Thalvin read it alone in his private chambers. He read it once quickly, then again more slowly, then a third time to make sure he understood correctly. The humans were not asking to return. They were dictating terms. The message was polite but absolutely clear. Humanity would return to the negotiating table only if the Council agreed to specific conditions. Full voting rights on all Council matters, permanent representation on the Security Directorate, veto power on any decisions that directly affected human interests or territories, a seat on every major committee with equal voice to senior members. The message ended with a simple statement that made Thalvin's crystalline structure feel cold. These terms are non-negotiable. We await your response. Thalvin sat in silence for a long time. Part of him wanted to reject the demands immediately. The humans were dictating terms to the Galactic Council like they were the ones in power. It was unprecedented. It was audacious. It was completely unacceptable according to centuries of Council tradition. But another part of him, the part that had been watching the Council slowly fall apart over the past weeks, knew that they had no choice. The humans were not bluffing. They had proven they could survive and even thrive without the Council. Could the Council say the same about surviving without the humans? He called another emergency session. When the representatives gathered, the mood was even darker than before. Everyone knew the human response had arrived. Rumors about its contents had already spread through the station. The humans have sent their terms for returning, Thalvin announced. He projected the message for everyone to see. The chamber was silent as the representatives read. Then the silence exploded into chaos. "This is outrageous," Ambassador Velthor shouted above the noise. "They are newcomers demanding the rights of founding members. This cannot stand, can it not?" Councillor Kessera challenged. "What is our alternative? To continue as we are? My world's economy has contracted by 20% in 6 weeks. How much more can we lose before the damage becomes permanent?" "We find other solutions," Velhor insisted. "We adapt. We find new trade partners." "There are no other partners," Senator Holment said quietly. "Not ones who can provide what the humans provided. I have tried. My government has sent inquiries to every major trading species in the Council. The responses are all the same. Higher prices, longer delivery times, inferior quality. The humans were not just another trading partner. They were the best trading partner." Representative Mirtak stood up. "My coalition has already made a decision. If the Council rejects these terms, the frontier worlds will formally withdraw and establish independent treaties with humanity. We will not sacrifice our people's welfare for the Council's pride." That declaration sent shockwaves through the chamber. Other representatives began whispering urgently to their aides. If the frontier worlds left, others would follow. The entire structure of the Galactic Council could collapse. Councillor Trevnak spoke into the chaos. "We are not being asked to surrender. We are being to accept a partner as an equal. Yes, the humans have been in space for less time than most of us, but they have proven their value. They have proven their capability. And most importantly, they have proven they do not need us as much as we need them. That is the reality we must accept." "You want us to give veto power to a species that might abuse it?" another representative argued. "As opposed to our current system where senior members already have effective veto power?" Trevenak replied. "Let us not pretend this is about protecting democracy. This is about pride. We are being asked to admit that we were wrong, and that a young species has earned the right to stand as our equal. That is difficult for our egos, but it is the truth." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued passionately for accepting the human terms. Others insisted that doing so would destroy the Council's authority and tradition. The chamber divided along clear lines between those whose worlds were suffering most from the human withdrawal and those whose worlds were less affected. Finally, Thulvin called for a vote. All in favor of accepting the human terms and inviting them to return as full members with the rights they have specified, indicate now. The vote was not close this time. The measure passed with a clear majority. Too many worlds were hurting too badly to let pride stand in the way of practical necessity. Ambassador Velthor voted against it again, and this time when the session ended he submitted his resignation from his position. His political career was over, destroyed by his own arrogance and his inability to see what was obvious to others. 3 days later, the Council's acceptance of human terms was transmitted to Earth. The message was shorter than their previous apology and far more direct. The Council agreed to all human conditions and proposed returning to Kepler 7 station in 2 weeks to formalize the new arrangements. On Earth, President Cole read the acceptance with a small smile. They agreed to everything. I expected at least some pushback. They are desperate, Linda Hayes said. Our intelligence reports show that 6 more worlds are considering leaving the Council, if this situation is not resolved. The humans leaving broke something fundamental in their power structure. Good, Admiral Peterson said from his video link. Maybe that structure needed to be broken. From what I have seen, the Council was built on a system where older species held all the power and newer ones had to beg for scraps. That is not sustainable, so we go back? Someone asked. We go back, Cole confirmed. But we go back as equals. Commander Harper will lead the delegation again. Senator Banks will accompany him, and this time there will be no doubt about humanity's place at that table. Meanwhile, across human space, the news spread quickly. Humanity was returning to the Galactic Council, but on their own terms. The reaction was overwhelmingly positive. People felt proud that their government had refused to accept disrespect and had held firm until respect was given. On the merchant vessel Horizon's Edge, Captain Gary Mitchell received notification that Council trade routes would be reopening soon. He looked at his current contracts, all offering premium prices for basic runs. Are you going to go back to the regular Council routes? His co-pilot asked. Gary thought about it. Eventually, but I am going to finish these premium contracts first. Let the Council remember what it cost them when they lost us. Maybe they will think twice before treating human traders poorly again. Similar decisions were being made by human ships across the galaxy. Yes, they would return to normal trading patterns eventually, but not immediately, not eagerly. The Council had learned a lesson, and humans wanted to make sure that lesson stuck. Dr. Kessman on Vex Prime received word that human medical shipments would resume within 2 weeks. She had been rationing her remaining supplies carefully, and her patients had been suffering. The relief she felt was overwhelming. She sent a personal message to the human medical companies thanking them and apologizing for her government's role in the failed negotiations. The response surprised her. We do not blame the individual worlds for the Council's failures. We are glad to help your people again. Healing is what we do best. On Korath, Chief Minister Ralesh watched the first human cargo ship in 6 weeks approach his docking bay. The majestic Dawn landed smoothly, and within hours vital machinery was being unloaded. His mining operations could resume. His economy could recover. He had learned an expensive lesson about taking valuable partnerships for granted. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. Humanity had walked away when disrespected. They had survived and thrived without the Council. And now they were returning, but only on their own terms. Other species, especially younger ones who had felt marginalized by the Council's hierarchy, paid attention. The humans had shown that it was possible to demand respect and receive it. Grand Arbiter Thulvin prepared Kepler 7 station for the humans' return. This time, the negotiation chamber was arranged differently. The human seats were not separate or lower. They were integrated into the main council circle at the same height as senior members. It was a small change physically, but a massive change symbolically. As he made the arrangements, Thulvin reflected on everything that had happened. The council had made a serious mistake in judging the humans. They had assumed that because humanity was young, they were weak or desperate. That assumption had nearly destroyed everything the council had built over centuries. He hoped the lesson would last. But he also wondered if other changes were coming. The humans had forced the council to confront its own flaws. What else might change as a result? 6 months had passed since Commander Daniel Harper walked out of the negotiation chamber at Kepler 7 station. Now he was walking back through those same corridors, but everything felt different. The station itself looked the same, with its curved walls and artificial gravity generators humming beneath the floor. But the atmosphere had changed completely. When Daniel entered the main negotiation chamber, Grand Arbiter Tholvin was waiting at the entrance. The crystalline being stepped forward and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Commander Harper, Dr. Morrison, Senator Banks, welcome. We are honored to have you return." Daniel shook the offered hand, noting the word choice. Honored, not allowing or permitting. It was a small thing, but it mattered. He looked past Tholvin and saw the new seating arrangement. The human chairs were no longer separate. They were integrated into the main council circle, positioned at equal height with the senior members. "Thank you, Grand Arbiter. We are pleased to be here." They took their seats, and Daniel felt dozens of alien eyes watching them. Some looked curious, others respectful. A few still seemed resentful, but none looked dismissive. That was the key difference. The negotiations began immediately. Tholvin outlined the agenda for the coming days: trade agreements, security partnerships, technology sharing protocols, and formal integration procedures. The list was long, but unlike before, there was genuine willingness to discuss and compromise. Dr. Lisa Morrison presented the agricultural proposals she had prepared months ago. This time, representatives from a dozen worlds listened carefully and asked thoughtful questions. Senator Holmint of the Draken Confederacy spoke up. "Dr. Morrison, your previous proposals for our world were excellent. We have reconsidered them and would like to implement them immediately if you are still willing." Lisa smiled. "We are willing. I have updated the plans based on seasonal changes. I think we can achieve even better results than my original projections." The discussion continued for 3 hours. Not once did anyone dismiss a human proposal without serious consideration. Not once did anyone suggest that humans lack the experience or knowledge to contribute meaningfully. The contrast with the previous negotiations was stark and obvious to everyone in the room. During a break, Counselor Trevenak approached Daniel privately. The old being moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "I'm glad you came back." "Commander, I am glad we were given reason to come back," Daniel replied carefully. "Many of us have learned difficult lessons these past months. Pride is a dangerous thing when it blinds us to truth. The humans were right to walk away. It was the only way some of us would see clearly. And now?" Daniel asked. "Now we begin again, but with understanding. You are not here as supplicants or junior members. You are here as partners, true partners. I hope that this council can live up to that promise." "So do we, Counselor. So do we." The negotiations continued over the next 3 days. The progress was remarkable. Issues that would have taken weeks to resolve during the first attempt were settled in hours. Compromises were reached that benefited everyone. The human delegation worked late into each night preparing documents and reviewing proposals, but unlike before, they felt like their time was being spent productively. On the 3rd day, the formal treaty was ready for signing. The document was comprehensive, detailing humanity's rights and responsibilities as a full council member. Daniel read through it one final time before the ceremony. Everything they had asked for was there: full voting rights, security directorate representation, committee seats, veto power on matters affecting human interests. It was everything they had demanded, granted without significant modification. The signing ceremony was held in the station's Grand Hall. Representatives from all council species attended. Human President Nathan Cole appeared via holographic projection, larger than life and clearly visible to everyone present. "This is an important day for humanity and for the Galactic Council," Cole began. "6 months ago, we walked away from negotiations because we were not being treated with respect. Today, we return because that respect has been earned on both sides. My predecessor once said that humanity came in peace for all mankind. Today, I say that we remain in peace, but only with those who value peace as we do. This council has shown that it can learn, adapt, and grow. Together, we will build something stronger than what existed before." The applause that followed was genuine. Even representatives who had opposed human membership seemed to recognize the significance of the moment. Grand Arbiter Tholvin spoke next. "The Galactic Council has existed for over 2,000 years. In that time, we have welcomed many species into our community, but we have not always welcomed them as we should have. The humans taught us that true partnership requires mutual respect, not hierarchy based on age or tradition. This lesson will not be forgotten. From this day forward, humanity stands as an equal member of this council with all rights and privileges that entails. The signing proceeded smoothly. Each representative placed their mark on the treaty according to their species' customs. When Daniel signed the human portion, he used a simple pen that had belonged to his grandfather, a diplomat who had worked on Earth's early space treaties. It felt appropriate somehow, connecting past to present to future. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Daniel found himself surrounded by representatives wanting to establish connections with humanity. Some were genuine, others were clearly trying to secure favorable trade deals. He handled both types with diplomatic courtesy. Dr. Lisa Morrison stood near the viewing window, looking out at the stars. Senator Banks joined her. "How do you feel?" Banks asked. "Tired," Lisa admitted, "but satisfied. We did what we came to do. We stood our ground and they respected us for it. Do you think it will last, this new arrangement?" Lisa thought about the question carefully. Nothing lasts forever. There will be other challenges, other conflicts, but we have established something important. We have shown that humanity will not beg for acceptance. We will walk away if we must, and I think that lesson will last for a long time. Back on Earth, news feeds celebrated the successful treaty. Humanity had not only joined the Galactic Council, but had done so on their own terms. The pride people felt was not about dominance or superiority. It was about dignity. Their leaders had refused to accept disrespect, had been willing to walk away from a bad deal, and had ultimately secured a good one. In a small apartment in Houston, a young girl named Sophie Carter watched the ceremony broadcast with her father. "Dad, are we part of the galaxy now?" Her father smiled. "We always were, sweetheart." They just finally realized it. Across human space, similar conversations were happening, parents explaining to children what had happened. Teachers discussing the negotiations in classrooms, politicians debating what it meant for humanity's future. The consensus was clear. Humanity had passed an important test, not of strength or technology, but of self-respect. On the border regions, human patrol ships resumed their routes. The pirates who had grown bold during the withdrawal quickly learned that the humans were back and just as aggressive as before. Within weeks, the border zones were secure again. Council merchant vessels that had been avoiding certain routes began using them once more. Chief Minister Ra'al-Esh of Korath stood in his now busy docking bay and watched human ships come and go. His economy had recovered, his mining operations were running smoothly again, and his people were employed. He had sent a personal apology to the human trading companies, acknowledging his mistake in supporting the dismissive treatment during the first negotiations. The response had been gracious but firm. The humans accepted the apology but made it clear that future partnerships would be based on mutual respect, or not exist at all. On Vex Prime, Dr. Kessman's patients were recovering. The human antibiotics had resumed flowing and the plague was under control again. She had learned to never take such partnerships for granted. She had also learned that the humans, despite being relative newcomers to space, possessed knowledge and capabilities that rivaled or exceeded many older species. Grand Arbiter Tholvan sat in his chambers late one night, reviewing reports from across Council space. Trade was returning to normal levels. Security incidents were declining. The various crises triggered by the human withdrawal were resolving. But more importantly, the Council itself had changed. Other junior member species were watching what humanity had achieved. They were asking questions about their own representation and rights. The rigid hierarchy that had existed for centuries was being challenged. Tholvan was wise enough to recognize that this was ultimately positive. A council that could adapt and grow was stronger than one locked in tradition. The humans had forced that growth, and while it had been painful, it was necessary. Counselor Trevnak visited him that evening. "You look thoughtful, Grand Arbiter. I am thinking about change, about how a single species walking away from negotiations has changed the entire structure of our governance." Change was needed, Trevnak said simply. We had grown complacent. We believed our way was the only way. The humans showed us otherwise. Do you think they knew? When they walked out, did Commander Harper understand what effect it would have? Trevnak considered the question. I think they simply knew their own worth. They did not need our validation to know they were valuable. That is what made them different. That is what made them dangerous to our old assumptions. And now we are better for it. A council of true partners is stronger than a council of masters and servants. On the merchant vessel Horizon's Edge, Captain Gary Mitchell reviewed his schedule. He had finished the premium contracts earned during the withdrawal period and was returning to normal council routes. But he noted that the standard rates had increased significantly. The council had learned that human services were valuable, and the prices reflected that new understanding. Back to normal? His co-pilot asked. A new normal, Gary corrected. Everything looks the same on the surface, but underneath everything has changed. We are not the cheap alternative anymore. We are the preferred choice, and we are paid accordingly. Commander Daniel Harper remained at Kepler 7 for another week, working out implementation details with various council representatives. On his last night before returning to Earth, he stood in the observation deck where he had stood 6 months ago after walking out. Lisa Morrison joined him. Ready to go home? More than ready, Daniel admitted. But I am glad we came back. Not because we needed to, but because it was the right thing to do. For them or for us. For everyone. The galaxy is better with cooperation than without it. But that cooperation has to be based on respect. We made sure it would be. As the Roosevelt prepared to depart Kepler 7, Daniel looked back at the station one final time. They had left in anger and frustration. They were returning in dignity and strength. The difference mattered.